r/AskReddit. Ex-teachers of celebrities. What was your experience with them as your students? My 4th grade math teacher also taught LeBron James. She said he was obsessed with basketball. When asked what he was going to be when he grew up, he said he was going to be in the NBA. When she told him he needed a backup plan, he just looked into her soul and said, "No, I'm going to be in the NBA." My mom taught Kanye West's music theory class in high school. She said he insisted he would one day be a famous rapper and that he was a decent student, but sometimes a bit stubborn. Overall not that noticeable, although he did like freestyling. He and some other students threw a little baby shower for my mom while she was pregnant with my sister, which is nice. Not a teacher, but a teacher at my school told us about how he taught TJ Miller. He said that whenever he sees a kid now that he thinks is funny, he compares them to TJ and realizes that they aren't as funny as TJ was. He said he was a very well liked kid and that he was obviously a class clown of sorts. If you watch High Music Video Denver, you can see my high school at the end when he starts doing our cheer with all the kids. He comes back to visit every once in a while. Great guy. My Econ teacher said he was in the same fraternity as Will Ferrell, and apparently whenever they had a party he would disappear for a few minutes and then start streaking. He also said that once a professor gave him a bad grade on a test that would have caused him to retake the class, so he started streaking until the professor changed the grade. I was in Stratford, Ontario, and ran into someone who used to be Justin Bieber's nanny. From what I gathered, he was an entitled little shit and always tried to impress girls by playing guitar and stuff. My dad went to middle school with Steve Jobs. He never had a class with Jobs, but he did hear stuff about him and saw him sometimes. My dad told me that Jobs really didn't have any friends and was bullied. Part of that was because he brought it on himself by being an asshole sometimes, but Jobs was just kinda awkward socially and maybe didn't know better. This was only for a year, since Steve Jobs basically forced his parents to move so that he could go to a different school, because other than the bullying, Jobs also claimed that there were a lot of trashy people there and that the teachers sucked. According to my dad, that was bullshit. My dad said he felt bad for Steve Jobs at the time because he sort of got to know Jobs and Steve Jobs did not have a single thing about him that would lead anyone to see him having any kind of success. He was exactly the type of person to live in their parents' basement until they were 40. I guess something must have changed. Here is the AskReddit from 2 years ago. For the lazy, David Bowie. There's one of David Bowie's reports in my old secondary school, which reads, "David is a quiet student who needs to stop playing with his motorcycles and learn that music will not make him a livable wage." Adam Sandler. There was a science teacher in my high school who taught Adam Sandler. She was horrible, and one of his first recognized songs, "I Hate Mrs. K," is all about her. Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio didn't get along well with the other kids. Came in during lunch to eat with the teachers and faculty. Nicolas Cage. My grandmother was the secretary at a Beverly Hills high school when Nicolas Cage was attending. She said he was always late and often at the principal's office for goofing off. Apparently he dropped out of school for a bit. She also described him as charming in a Ferris Bueller sort of way. Lady Gaga. One of my professors taught Lady Gaga at NYU. She said Gaga used to stand up after class every day and tell everyone to come out and see the gigs she was playing in. Lady Gaga wasn't doing very well in the class, so my professor asked to meet with her. She told her that maybe if she focused more on her schoolwork and less on her gigs, she'd be more successful. Awkward. Rob McElhenney. The principal of my old high school taught Mac from Always Sunny while he was in high school. He said he was exactly how you would expect, a troublemaker and a smartass, but surprisingly he sucked at theater and school plays. My English teacher had John Travolta in his basketball team that he coached at the time. He said he was very annoying, and he told him that he wouldn't make it anywhere in life. My mother's best friend taught Matthew McConaughey. She said he was one of her favorite students because he was so sweet. Apparently he came to see her and talk to her class when he first started acting. Seems pretty cool. Well, the voice of Boots the monkey from Dora the Explorer goes to high school with some of my friends. Apparently he's extremely awkward and he's also not exactly the type of person this question was about. A coworker of mine once punched Bon Jovi in the face when they were classmates in Sayville High School. My old English teacher taught Colleen Ballinger, aka Miranda Sings, and reported she was very quiet, full of teen angst, and not funny. My mom went to school with Trent Reznor. Said he was quiet, but when you actually got to know him, he was a talking machine. Apparently one of my teachers taught John Green. Of course, when we asked our teacher what was John Green like, he answered simply, not an exceptional student in the least. He wasn't happy with any of his scores, nor was he happy making up the credit for his writing course. His work was mediocre at best, at the time. Why wasn't he happy? Someone asked the teacher. Because he failed my class and had to go to summer school. I hate when people do this, but still, I'm not a teacher, but my high school environmental sciences teacher had a wife who taught high school chemistry to Kanye West. She said he was a very nice, smart, and respectful young man, which means both of them believe his behavior now is an act to get more people to talk about him. Not exactly answering the question, but before my time at my high school, a yeshiva, Natusha Lion, Orange is the New Black, was in honors Talmud, but got kicked out of school for dealing weed. One of my high school teachers had Kristen Bell in her class for a few years. She said that Kristen was a very bright student, always well liked, and she had a beautiful singing voice, and was the lead in the school plays. One particular memory she had of Kristen was when she was Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz. Surprisingly, it wasn't the main cast, but rather the Munchkins who stole the show, because they were the varsity football team walking on their knees through the auditorium. Kristen was supposed to sing at her wedding, but had to cancel because she had just been hired for a job, which turned out to be Veronica Mars. My econ teacher taught Michael Phelps. He said that no one knew who Michael was before the Olympics. As soon as he came back though, whenever he was in school, he was really cocky and obnoxious. But since he rarely was in school, he didn't really have much experience with him after his freshman year. Bill Murray went to my high school way before me, but there is a story that I would like to believe is real, that he got the record for most amount of detentions, called jugs, for someone who graduated from the school, and when a kid broke it years later he took him out to lunch. My hairstylist was Mary Akara's cosmetology teacher when she attended BOCES Vocational School in Green Lawn/Huntington, New York. Said Maria was a bit of a diva and was not terribly interested in learning the trade of hair and makeup. Wanted to sing instead. I guess that worked out. I'm an anthropology professor who taught Kate Beaton, the cartoonist who draws Harker Vagrant. She was smart and funny and very quiet. I try to use engaging learning activities in my classes, and that year asked students to do a drawing that depicted one of the key points in the assigned reading for that day. Her group did a 4-panel cartoon that was spot on and very funny. I kept it and pull it out whenever I do that exercise now. Not a teacher, but a former supervisor of mine went to college with Fred Rogers. She said he was exactly the same guy as he was on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. I've got a flip story. I was partially taught how to fish by Jimmy Carter. He was very encouraging to 8-year-old me. She wasn't a past teacher of a celeb, but my APBO teacher in high school went to the same school as Dennis Leary, and he asked her to their senior prom, and she turned him down. He brought it up in an interview after he got famous and said that she was right for turning him down because he was a total dork in high school. Not quite what you guys are looking for, but since this thread is barren I'll chime in. I went to elementary school with Grimes. She was pretty charismatic, but I get the feeling she was more of an introvert. If I recall correctly, she was an average student. Keep in mind that this was a private Catholic school in a very affluent neighborhood, so all of our parents had very high expectations for us academically. I don't know her parents that well, but her mom is a crown prosecutor and her dad is a professor, so I'm sure they expected her to be doing well. Her parents went through a messy divorce in either grade 5 or 6. Claire took it really hard. She'd always been artsy, but I think she got more into her art during this phase as she focused less on her academics. One thing that may surprise you is she wasn't musical at all in these days. Apparently she taught herself how to play the piano at around 16 or 17, but this is after I lost track of her. Our school had a decent music program, but she wasn't into it. We had an excellent visual arts program at the school and that was her jam, drawing and painting. She liked drawing fashionable women. Yes, I can remember her drawing highly sexed women in grade 5. She also loved animals, so she would paint them a lot. I think her dog's name was Toby, and she liked to paint him. I think I remember her drawing and painting nature scenes from time to time. She also loved Barbie dolls. A friend's mom taught Patton Oswalt. Said he was mostly quiet, kept to himself, and seemed like kind of a loner, but when he did speak it was comedy gold. He actually shouts out to the area he grew up in a lot of his material. His first 2 CDs basically have a couple minute rants about how Sterling sucks balls, and he spends like half of his book Zombie, Spaceship, Wasteland talking about how much Sugarland Run sucks. But he recently did an interview where he said, "I know what I said on my first 2 albums, but now I don't know." There's a Facebook group about Sterling that filled with a lot of people from my high school and people I grew up with and was friends with. Reading all of their memories of Sterling compared to my memories, I'm starting to suspect the thing that sucked about Sterling was me. It's interesting because I wonder if all the learners really just freaking hate where they are. Finally something I can contribute to. It's not much I suppose, but I had Curtis Granderson in class when I taught high school. Really nice kid, pretty funny and animated, super personable, just overall a likable kid, really glad he found success.